So you survived the plane crash which killed 107 out of 109 passengers,
Correct.
out of which 60 were your classmates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Most of us would not have to overcome such an event, but what are some of the lessons you've learned that we can apply to our daily lives and the daily challenges that we face?
One thing I would say for sure, going through this process, this journey of being a burn survivor, is to take each day as it comes and to live out each day as if that was your last day. You know, it's a pretty cliche thing to say, but it's the truth, because you really never know when it could all just be over. So I feel like it's really important for us to live a life with as little regret as possible, and the only way to do that is to take as many risks as you can, really. And you know, the things that you've always thought about doing that you just had so many doubts about doing, you should just do it. Just do it, because you know you will regret not doing it eventually, especially if it's something that is really dear to your heart. So I've just learned over the years that I tend to have less regrets when I try and fail something, you know, than if I never try it at all. So that's a really major thing for me, and a great way for me to, that's just one of the best ways I've been living my life since the accident happened.
Most people look at you now and they see positivity, they see your success, yeah. But in your darkest hour, how did you feel?
My darkest hour till date is probably the moment when I realized the truth about the accident and how there were only 2 survivors. Up until that moment, I had assumed that everyone survived. So to find out that I'd lost all those friends and all those kids were all gone was just something I didn't feel like I could recover from. You know, I kept thinking about the parents of all the kids that passed away, parents of my closest friends, and how, if I was feeling this bad, how much worse were they feeling, you know? So it felt like a dark pit that I would never be able to crawl out of. I had my mom, I had my dad, my family were around me, supporting me, but they couldn't reach me, really, you know? But at the end of the day, it was my grandmother that reached me with her words, and she kind of got me to understand why you don't ask why about things like this, because it distracts you from the right way to react to that kind of darkness. You know, when you ask why, it just pulls you and keeps you in that area, in that pit, in that place. So I wanted to learn instead to use that horrible feeling for something good instead. You know, maybe the best way to commemorate the memories of those that passed away is not to just be depressed all the time, because then that would just be a waste of this life that was saved. Maybe the better way to treat that would be to instead do things that would make them proud if they were alive. Do things that would make their families proud, because I know they're watching me and praying for me. And so that was just how I was able to pull myself out of it. It's still it's a very slow process. You know, it's very gradual. Nothing happens immediately, but with the right support system and the right attitude, I feel like over time, each day it just gets a little bit better. And so that was my darkest time for sure, you know, and it's still like a healing process going on even 11 years after.
A lot of times, people don't hit that bottom pit before they rebound.
That's true.
So how do they find that strength to correct course or to improve on things?
My faith plays a really big role in that for me. You know, I'm a Christian, and I believe that a big part of why I'm able to, you know, kind of stay optimistic and see the glass half full most of the time is because I have this, I crave and always want, seek out this inner peace that I feel can only come from God. And it's a peace that really makes no sense, because even when things look so bleak, I feel like at the end of the day, everything just has to work out, you know. And as long as I just don't lose sight of that, I never feel like I'm alone. Because even if my mom or my dad can't reach me, I know that he's always there. If I ever feel like I'm at the end of my rope, that's usually where I find that God thrives. And so, you know, it's just always comforting at least to know that someone bigger than me, stronger than me, knows what's going on with me. And that's really a big reason why, you know, whenever like the path gets too dark for me to see which way to go, I feel like at some point it's going to shine some kind of light for me to know which way to go, you know. I mean, that's what's worked for me all these years, honestly, you know. And it's not something that's perfect when it happens, you know. I fall several times. It's something where you discipline yourself trying to get back on that path, and just, following what he says. For anyone else who is going through, that kind of, maybe going through something where they just keep encountering obstacles and obstacles, I usually just tell people like that to get to this point where we are right now, in the present, it means that we've already overcome such obstacles that at the time we didn't realize we would overcome them. Almost every year or at just every moment, people encounter things that make them think that this is the end. I can't do this. But if you're still here, it means you actually overcame those things. So if you got this far, then you do have it in you to go further. We just don't realize that we are actually more resilient as human beings than we think. Unfortunately, the world likes to test our breaking point too many times. But all of us in this room now, we've all overcome horrible things and difficult things that we thought at the time we couldn't. So this means that we do have the strength to even go further than we think. I think perspective helps a lot too. It's like, okay, so last year I thought this would never happen, but it happened. So that means that this thing here is not actually as impossible as it seems.
I think you mentioned this just now as well. I read from one of your interviews. I feel a lot of responsibility to the parents of the other kids who lost their lives in the crash. I want to live my life in a way that would make them proud, and because of this I feel like I have a responsibility to do good things.
That's true.
This is incredible motivation to you, but it can also be an incredible burden.
Pressure, yes.
Or pressure to someone who is less strong. So this mental strength that you have, do you think that was inborn or shaped by the circumstances that you went through?
Oh, it's definitely circumstantial, for sure. I think we all have it in us, every single one of us, It doesn't have to be something as big as a plane crash to bring that out of a person, But every day I feel like human beings, just living life itself is hard enough. We unlock more and more of what we can do and how much strength that we have. Life just likes to test, that strength. And every time we overcome something new, we push ourselves further to overcome it, and we uncover more strength that we have. And it's not strength like a physical thing. It is all in your head and how much you can take. And I think that we all have it, all of us. I just happen to have gone through something it was either sink or swim for me, for sure. And with all the help that I had and with my faith, I feel like I was able to stay afloat. But for sure, we all have it inside us. I think, for sure. We just need to unlock it, every day.
Again, a lot of people do not have major events to unlock such strength.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to that, or any advice for people to
for
unlock?
them? Yeah. One important thing is, and again, this is pretty typical advice, but what happens when you encounter a difficulty and you give up? It means that you are not ever going to see the light, metaphorical light in the end of the tunnel. When you stop something halfway, or you just, you see something difficult and you just turn away from it, you're never going to know how much strength you have inside you if you don't, face that difficulty or that obstacle. If you turn away from it, you're just going to be stagnant. No challenges, because challenges are what help us grow and help us, reach new heights within ourselves. But if you always avoid every challenge or every obstacle, you will never know how strong you are, So I feel like it's important that, in fact, not just that it's important, we owe it to ourselves and all the difficulties that we go through just living life to find that light, to see that light, Because if you stop halfway or you never, tackle that issue, then all your struggles so far would be literally for nothing, and you don't want to have suffered for nothing. That's a really bleak feeling, So you want all your suffering so far to mean something, and the only way to find out what it means is to keep going, So that's what I think I would say to them, really. Yeah.
Of course, America's Got Talent. Yeah. You took part in the competition as a singer in 2017.
True.
And emerged as a top 10 finalist. I would imagine trying to pick yourself up after that event, in a circle of friends and family and students. It's very different from putting yourself up there on a global stage.
True.
Yeah. So why do you take up that challenge?
That challenge? Well, honestly, I did not pick up that challenge on my own. A friend actually signed me up and didn't tell me. So she kind of took the matter out of my hands and did something that she'd been telling me to do for months, years actually.
Sure. But some
Including
people
my
would
dad.
just say, no, I don't want to
That's
go.
true. That's true. But at the end of the day, I do love to sing. You know, it's a step I never would have taken myself, but God put her in my life for a reason, and she did that thing that I never would have had the bravery to do myself. But once she put me out there, she'd done the hard part for me. You know, I felt like now it's just, you know, a matter of thinking about it as just an experience, you know. So if I went in expectant of, you know, top 10 or, you know, semi-finalists and all that, it would, you know, I would be setting myself up for extreme disappointment if it didn't happen. So once she, you know, threw me in there, and I was there, it became kind of like might as well see how this goes kind of attitude. So every time that I stepped on that stage, I thought it was my last time. I acted and treated it like it was my last time ever. So I wanted to soak in as much of that experience because I know that there are people who would love to be where I was in that spot right there. So I couldn't waste that, you know. So I wanted to, even if it didn't work out, and I ended up just staying at the auditions level. Even if that was what happened, then I would leave knowing that I had in that moment given my all, and that's more important to me than moving up to the next step. So I guess the mindset you go in with also helps a lot too. Because, and it's also, I guess it's a little bit chicken too, because, you know, when you don't expect anything, then you're not disappointed. So that was also kind of like a defense mechanism for me to make sure that, you know, I don't feel too bad if it doesn't work out. But it also ended up being a fantastic surprise because every time I went further, it was like, oh my God, I'm still here, you know. So that's pretty much how the attitude I used to go into it. You know, myself, my entire family, my mom, I remember both of us just being like, okay, let's just see what happens. And so it was just a wonderful surprise the way things turned out, but I didn't see it coming. But yeah, I think, you know, my attitude was really just, let's just see where this goes, yeah. And that helps calm me down a lot for sure, you know, no pressure, so to speak.
Before everything, were you concerned or were you unsure about how the public would view you?
Oh yeah. So the further I got, around the beginning when I was the audition stage, the judge cut, and then the first live show, those first 3 stages, I battled with a lot of personal concerns on how people saw this situation. You know, at the time, I was also really struggling with seeing my talent as, you know, worthy of being, you know, on TV and with all these other talented people. And now I was in there, and, you know, I had this issue with, you know, wondering if I was there because of my voice or was I there because of my story, and I didn't want to be there because of my story. It's okay if that's the, you know, initial reason why you were interested in me, but I don't want to be pushed along because people just think that my story is so amazing. I don't want to be that person, because I felt like, you know, if this wasn't my attitude and my prayer at that time was always, if this is not a spot that's meant for me and it's meant for someone else, then God, just kick me out of this thing. I don't want to be here, you know. I only want to be here if this is actually what I deserve and what I have earned, you know. So it was a real personal struggle, you know. And there were people who, in the beginning, definitely thought, you know, this is just because of her story for sure. And, you know, I was thinking the same thing too, so it didn't help. But once I got into the live shows and it became the public voting, I felt like, you know, the further I got, the more I started to get convinced that maybe it's a little more than my story. Because at that point, the whole thing is out of the judge's hand. It's now in the hands of just normal people, ordinary people. And so if they felt like I deserved to be here because they thought I could sing, then that's just what it's supposed to be, you know. But yeah, in the beginning, it took me a while to get to that point. And sometimes today I still struggle with the either or, but it's better. It's better than, you know, in the beginning of AGT for sure. Yeah.
It has turned out to be a wonderful platform for you to share.
Exactly. You know, I feel like it turned out that there was more to the whole thing than just me singing. You know, I feel like there was just a bigger thing. There was a bigger plan at work, you know, bringing me to this kind of stage, for example, you know, is one of the wonderful consequences of being on the show. None of it would have happened if not for the platform that I was given on AGT, so I'm very grateful.
I think obviously your friend signed you up for the
yes, she did.
competition you mentioned. And I think I read from one of your previous interviews as well that you thought your voice was good, but not good enough.
But not good enough.
And even you mentioned you were not sure whether you were good enough to be in it. So what do you learn from the experience? Or for someone who's unsure whether they can attain a
Yeah.
unachievable goal, so to
Unachievable
speak, what can they take away from your experience?
I think it comes down to, at least from my perspective, for me, it came down to jumping in feet first, really. You know, you will really never know unless you're actually in it, doing it. There's just no other way. You will always wonder, you know? So if there's something that someone has, you know, in their mind that they just really want to do or want to, you know, just have a go at, you know, then just find a way to do it. Like don't let because you're always going to have fear and insecurities about these things. But if you're waiting for those fears and insecurities to go before you do those things, then you're not going to do it. You know, you will never do it because, you know, it's just something that's always going to be there, even while you're doing it. So you might as well just do it if you're going to be afraid either way, you know. If I hadn't done AGT and I told my friend, you know, forget, I'm not going to go to the audition, I would be here. First of all, I would not be here. But then wherever I am, I would definitely always regret it. I would always be thinking, what if I'd done it, you know? And I see other people singing or doing their talents, and I'm like, that could have been me, you know? Those are thoughts that I do not like having. You know, that's so much regret, and I don't like that, you know? So it just goes with the whole idea of, you know, just do what would allow you to sleep at night, you know? So you don't lose sleep wondering what could have been. You know, I think it's just the worst feeling. I think also when you get older, the older you get, the more, you know, you reminisce about, you know, could have beens, you know, and I don't want to have too many of those to worry about when I'm older. So it's just something that, it's all this fear that comes with taking risks, you know. I don't know how else to, it just sounds so like straightforward, so just do it. I know it's not that easy, you know. You just close your eyes and just do it. What if something amazing happens from it? You owe it to yourself to find out, you know? So I think I would just tell them to stop waiting for that fear to go away. It's not going to go. Just go ahead and do it, even if the fear is there.
Your scars don't define you. You've repeated this powerful phrase multiple times.
That's true.
So, can you tell me more about what that means for you? And what kind of message you hope that it means to
other people? It's such a heavy, you know, it's very simple words, but they mean so many things. I feel like we live in a world that is very focused on the external, you know, and that's just, it's inevitable because that's the first thing you see about a person's, their physical form, you know. So we can't help but form opinions and make judgments based on what we see on the outside. But it's kind of like a muscle you have to work, you know. You have to discipline yourself to leave someone you meet as a blank canvas until you actually, you know, interact with them. It's not something that happens automatically. But I've found that ever since the accident, you know, the people that I encounter, there's a reaction I usually always get after I've talked to someone for a minutes or so, like a stranger, and it's always, you know, something like, oh my gosh, wow, like, you know who I thought you'd be, you know, it's so easy to talk to you, or like, you know, or they don't, maybe they don't say like in such obvious words, but I can tell from like their countenance that they're more relaxed and just talking like normally and freely, and I love that. That's what I love, because that means that you have gone to a point where you're looking past what you see and you're just like talking to Kechi, just talking to me, you know. But I know it's not an easy point to get to, so I make it, you know, my responsibility to also kind of trying to help you to get more comfortable, because I try to reverse it, and I think if it were me, you know, no scars, just normal, and I met someone like me, you know, I would probably kind of tiptoe around her or him, wondering, what can I say, what can't I say, you know, I don't want to offend you, I don't want to make you feel bad. But then, you know, if that person is just, you know, relaxed and just talking like normal, it'll probably make me feel normal too. So that is me trying to actively live out the phrase, my scars don't define me, because I'm allowing you to see more than just the outside. Another thing is the kind of attitude that I have. I'm blessed to have this personality that thankfully maintained even after the accident, where I don't have to force myself to be myself. I can just be me, you know. That's something that I'm very grateful for. And so I want people to be able to say that they encountered Kechi and not, you know, this girl that has scars. Do you understand? I want them to look beyond that physical, because the thing is, if I can walk around with a different attitude, make it very obvious that these, like, my outer appearance affects me, and I'm always thinking about it and I'm conscious about it. Because if that was how I was and you meet me, that's the only thing you would see about me, because that's all I'm allowing you to see. I'm so conscious, and so you're conscious in turn, and it's just not going to end. But because I don't want to be that way, and I want people to just be freely me, themselves, and to meet me as I am too, and I want them to be themselves around me, then it makes it easier for us to interact. So it's all about what you project is what you get back. So I feel like that's a big part of my message for to other people, because I want them to see that the way that I am is the way that they can be as well. And that was a big thing for me to being on AGT, because it gave me a platform to share this message with a much bigger audience than I've ever shared it with, so that fellow kids who are burned, or teenagers, or whoever who have scars or any kind of physical deformity, can see that as long as you're just being yourself, no one really cares what you look like. That's pretty much that's a loud message on national TV. That AGT gave me that chance is really incredible. That they just allowed. I would never have thought that anything to do with Hollywood would actually let someone with as many scars as I have on national TV, but they just felt like it was a story worth telling, and that my talent was worth listening to, and that allowed me to show people, quite literally, that you don't have to allow this to hold you back. And so that's pretty much what I hope people take away from seeing me and encountering me. I want them to know that it doesn't matter. This does not matter as much as you think it does. You can still do a lot of things, and you don't have to adjust your dreams just because you got some scar, deformity, or disability. You can still do the things that you want to do. And when you open yourself up to the world, it does the same thing back to you.